It's official. The Chicago Bulls will be picking 11th in the 2024 NBA draft. And we're going to be talking about why this might be one of the best things that is happening for the Chicago Bulls as they move into their offseason full of a lot of questions around this roster. This is Rico Greenhowe, and this is another episode of Bulls Digest. And before we jump into it, I want to let you guys know that 78.5% of you that watch the videos are not subscribed to the channel. So make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with all the latest news and happenings around your Chicago Bulls, guys. And without further ado, guys, let's jump into the topic of the day, which is the Bulls have the 11th pick in the 2024 NBA draft. And I am going to say that I am very happy, and I am going to echo what I said on the last video here, that this was probably one of the best things that is happening for the Chicago Bulls moving into the offseason. A lot of people were looking at the fact that the Chicago Bulls could perhaps sneak into the lottery pick, and I was just hoping that they did not slip into the lottery, guys, because I think that the real value in this particular draft is going to be from pick 11 all the way to the end of the second round and maybe out of the second round. I think that this is the year where you are going to get players that are absolute steals later on in the draft. And I think that this particular draft reminds me a lot of what happened in 2013. That was the year that Giannis was picked at pick 15. I think pick 11 back then was Michael Carter-Williams, who turned out to be the rookie of the year for the Philadelphia 76ers. And ironic, he did end up playing for the Chicago Bulls at some point in his career. But that is the year that is going to be linked to Anthony Bennett being number one. You had Victor Oladipo. You had Otto Porter go in that draft. And so it was a lot of players that when you look back at it, they probably would not have been lottery picks. And a lot of those players that got taken later on were absolute steals. Rudy Gobert, I think he was 27th in that draft. And I believe Dennis Schroeder was 17th in that draft. So I think that the Chicago Bulls absolutely lucked out here by getting the 11th pick in the draft. Now, with that being said, just because I think that we're in a terrific position, I'm not sure that I'm sold that Artorias and our GM are going to make the right decision. I think that this is good for them because now they don't have as much pressure as they would if they were having to pick in the lottery. So I think that that's a good thing for us moving forward here with the Chicago Bulls. But I think we have a better chance to get it correct, but I think Artorias is really going to have to think about what he's going to do with this 11th pick because we don't have a second round pick, which is fine because I just said that I think that there's going to be some players that we can absolutely get our hands on that might be undrafted that can help us as well. Now, I'm not going to say that they're just going to automatically be all-stars, but I feel like when you pick down from 11 on, you're going to either get a rotational player or you're going to get an impactful player that is going to start right then and there. And it may not be necessarily a superstar, but I think it's going to turn into an all-star. And guys, before we jump into the next segment, which is, maybe what the Bulls should perhaps focus on, I will say this. At the 11th pick, traditionally, as I've looked back historically at some of the picks at 11, you had Klay Thompson go at 11. There's Miles Turner that has been drafted at number 11, guys. And so there are players out there that you can absolutely steal at pick 11 and you could still be in some good shape. I think Malik Monk, he was picked at pick 11. And if you've been watching the NBA playoffs, guys, SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, that's right. He was picked at pick 11, guys. So I want people to, who are looking at this to remember the Chicago Bulls are in a great situation and being at pick 11 is very good. And so now that moves us to the next part of the video, guys, which is, who are the players that the Chicago Bulls should absolutely focus on here, guys? All right. And so let me bring that up here. And so players the Bulls might draft. All right. So as we do this part of the video, guys, I'm going to start with a player that we are linked to, and I think a player that has really grown on me, all right? Because this is something that we have struggled with This is something that is definitely something that we need to address moving forward in the offseason and perhaps at the trade deadline. And I think it starts with the center position. All right. And so, one of the players that I like here that we've been linked to, done a video about that, and you can check that out on the channel, is Zach Edey. I think that Zach Edey is a guy that he can fall right into our laps. I love the fact that he is compared to Zubac. I love that he's a massive center with the skill set that has transformed him into this possible lottery pick, which I think he's going to fall out of it. But interior score, human highlight is correct. Post presence is already there. And I think here's a guy that it's funny. I was listening to Kendrick Perkins on the draft lottery. I think that my man Zach Edey just needs to hit the speed ladder, and I think that that's going to help him move his feet and be a lot quicker. I think that one of his ceiling points is that he turns into an excellent mid-range shooter to go along with his excellent post presence, and I think that he turns into like a Yao Ming type of player, right? I think like a super, super high ceiling for him is the ability to be a 3-level scorer, meaning that he's able to do a lot of what the Joker is able to do. He can score from the 3-point line, he can score in the mid-range area, and he can score from the box as well. And I'm just saying, like, the Chicago Bulls would just much welcome a guy that is going to beat somebody up in the post, because we are not getting that with Vooch. So I would love to get my hands on Edey. I think that he is NBA ready. I'm not worried about him one bit. Next up, I know we're linked to, I believe it's Cody Williams. All right. And so I'm going to give a quick insight about Cody Williams. All right. Here is a guy that is 6'8". He is a projected, I think, like a small forward, maybe / power forward. I think that his NBA comparison here was next to Jalen Rose, which is not bad. All right. And he is actually the brother of Jalen Williams, who you see now playing for OKC. All right. And so there is a lot of upside about him. The one thing about him is that he's young. All right. And then looking at some of his things that he needs to improve on, and what you were seeing on the screen, this was done on ringer.com, where you guys can check that out. I think it's excellent player profiles going into the draft. But one of the things that they talk about is that he lacks explosiveness off the ground. So his sheer jumping ability, he has trouble there. All right. And so that's going to be tough for him, for a guy that is going to need to finish on much taller players in the NBA. The next thing that they talk about is that he's not necessarily a good 3-point shooter. Now, I know that this is not anything that you would want to go ahead and you want to cringe on or anything like that, but he's going to be in a situation where if he were drafted, I think he's going to be propelled or pushed into more like a starting position for us, because I'm not sure that Patrick Williams is going to fill that void for us, even when we bring him back. And I mean, he's going to be in situations where he's going to have to be a little bit better with his catch and shoot off the 3-pointer. And one of the things that they say he struggles with is he struggles with his mid-range ability. So it's tough for him to, I guess, come off the dribble and then get right into a mid-range. They say it's a bit flat, like his footwork is not where you would want to be. And the last thing that they say about him is that he lacks strength. All right. And so he's a bit of a project, guys. I mean, it looks good on paper. I know we need the hype, but I'm just going to throw that out there, that it is going to be a bit of a project. Now, there is one guy coming out of that very same team, Colorado, that I absolutely love. I think that he's a huge steal, and I think that we should probably shift our focus more to him versus, Cody Williams. All right. And so the one thing that I will say about Cody Williams is this. When you're looking at brothers in the NBA, all right, the last time that we did that, we drafted Marcus Teague. All right. His brother was Jeff Teague. And he played for Atlanta, and he was a great guard. He played on their teams that went to the Eastern Conference Finals. But for the Chicago Bulls, it didn't work out very well with Marcus Teague. So that's the one thing that I will say about that. So I know he's been around NBA teams. He's probably been around the workouts and things like that. But that's where I'm a little weary with Kobe Williams. But moving into the next prospect that we should take a look at, absolutely, I feel like is going to be his teammate, and that is Tristan da Silva. I think that Tristan da Silva is a player that seamlessly fits in with us. He's taller than Williams at 6'9". He is much stronger at 220. And these are the things that I love about him. He is a matchup problem who finds a way to contribute. He is like, I know they have a Cal Anderson, but I compare him a lot to and more athletic Luol Deng. And I think that really works well with what we have at the guard play with Kobe White and also too with Dosunmu as well. Like, I think that that's going to play a lot better for us, and it might make that decision a little bit easier for Artorias now when it comes down to DeRozan. Terrific spacer. We need that, right? We need that versatility. Absolutely. The feel for the game. The off-ball defense, guys. That is something that Alex Caruso has. Alex Caruso just came off winning the Hustle Award, and that one of those the key aspects of that award is you're playing the passing lanes. Like, he was up there in deflections. I think that you're going to see a lot of those kind of steals with Da Silva. He's not necessarily the greatest on-ball defender, but he's a terrific off-ball defender, and you can get better as an on-ball defender. You really can. I think as you learn that, you learn your skill set and you understand how you can use your height and utilize yourself. Like, I think that he absolutely would be the guy that we would want to take a look at out of Colorado. The next player that I think that the Bulls should possibly take a look at here is Filipowski. All right, I talked about him before. We are linked to him possibly. They have him more of a healthy Zach Collins. I got him more of like a Chat Holmgren type of player. I think that he plays a lot more physical than Zach Collins does. And Zach Collins was a terrific player coming out of Gonzaga. I think that the one knock on him is always going to be the injuries that he's had. Right now, he's backing up Wembanyama. But I love the fact that they said that he has the dog in him. That reminds me a lot of what you get with Drummond. We need that, especially if we move on. I love the feel for the game, which means that he's able to adjust himself around players who maybe need the ball a little bit more, like a Kobe White or Dosunmu. So I think he can still go out there and find ways to eat. I love the fact that he's a playmaker. Okay, so he can get other people's shots. The vision, we love that. All right, that assist ratio comes up, and the perimeter shot, right? He's going to help us stretch the floor, and he's a 7-footer with ball handling ability. Couldn't get that out. But I think that this is a pick that absolutely would make sense at 11 as well. All right, so some more picks that possibly we could take a look at here moving down the draft. One of the picks that we're linked to is this guy, Ron Holland. All right, and so with Ron Holland, the one thing about him is he is a defensive stopper with upside. All right, and so I hate the fact that they say upside here with this one, and I don't like the fact that he's compared to a Josh Jackson player. All right, and so that kind of scares me a little bit here, and he's more of a downhill attacker scorer. Now, he is a terrific on-the-ball defender, great at the hustles. He does have the dog in him, athleticism. But the one thing about him is he struggles, I think, with his shot. It's a bit flat right now, and they're saying that, his mechanics are a bit off as well. Now, it's not anything that is going to make you completely cringe. This reminds me a lot of kind of what happened with Dosunmu and what the progressions that needed to take place with him. So those things can be fixed, absolutely, for sure. But those are some of the things that we perhaps want to kind of take a look at as we move forward with a player like Ron Holland, who could possibly fall to us. Next up, another guy that I think would be terrific for us here, Jacoby Walter. Young, but I like the fact that he's compared to a Chris Middleton type of player, right? The pull-up threat, all right? So here's a guy that can get to the mid-range, like a DeMar DeRozan, all right? Here's a guy that is a good movement shooter, meaning that we can run him off a bunch of staggers. Terrific on-ball defender, and he's got the dog in him, dog. Look at this. Tenacious competitive spirit. I love that about him. An assertive scorer with a silky shooting stroke. That is terrific to me because he's going to have to assert himself. And I think that that's one quality that you want out of a rookie. You want a guy that's going to come in and possibly be assertive and not just sit there and ball watch Kobe White and these guys go to work. So I like that about him. Great combo guard that we could possibly go to. Another guy that I think is a guy that could slide down in the draft, and this might be somebody that we're looking outside of the draft, is a guy like this. I think that when you're looking at Caravan here, I think that this is a guy that could be a contributor for you. They compare him to Niang, who's playing in Cleveland, but he's an offensive force that has a bunch of scoring skills. And I love that about him, the catch and shoot threat, and he's an off the ball mover, right? And so this means that if we want to play a little bit more space and pace, he would be terrific for us. 6'8". I love the height about him. And I love the fact that he is an NCAA champion, guys. I really, really love that about him. So, this is another guy that I think we could take a look at, perhaps outside of the draft. We don't have to necessarily go up and get him. Here's another guy that I think is going to fall in a lot of people's radar here. And this young man out of Wake Forest, I love everything that was said about him. Comparing him to Mitch Richmond and Jalen Williams, we just talked about how we were looking at Cody Williams, obviously the brother of Jalen Williams. But look at this. One of the nation's most efficient high usage scorers, guys. I love that. And they say he is an incredible defender. We get everything with that. All right. I know he's 6'5". We would want him to be 6'7", but I think here's a guy that perhaps could be an undersized 3-4. He's got a 6'10" wingspan. Look at this. On-ball defense, it's not happening. Terrific with a pull-up threat. I love that he has a float game, which means he has excellent touch and the hustle, the ability to get on the floor and dig balls out. That's going to remind you a lot of a Caruso, a lot of a Pat Beverly, a lot of a Jay Crowder. You need those type of defenders out there, guys. So, these are some players that I think we should take a look at. And lastly, here's a player that I know I got a lot of tough feedback in the comments on, and I know it's because of his size, and I know it's because he is looked at as strictly a guard. And this is, I think, why we are linked to this guy, and that's going to be Devin Carter. All right, so whether we like it or not, guys, we are going to be linked to this pick. You can go look in the articles. This is a guy that potentially could fall to us via the mock draft. Now, the one thing about him is you're getting the shades of a Bruce Brown. All right, and so it lists him as a guard, but when we know about Bruce Brown, he is a combo guard. All right, so he's a combo distributor. That's one of the things that it says about this young man is that he is a contributor in every single facet of the game. All right. Now, I'm not saying that he is a starter for us. I will say this. At 6'3", he's already taller than Javon Carter, who's 6'1", and gave us absolutely nothing off the bench. And by the way, our bench was one of the worst in the NBA. All right, so he doesn't necessarily have to be a starter. I think he would definitely be terrific to come off the bench for us because I think that there's still more deals that the Chicago Bulls can make that can improve this roster. All right, even though we don't have a second round pick, we're going to get some assets back from the Zach Lavine move that can address some of the height issues if we have to go with this young man. But I love the fact that he's got the dog in him. He's got the hustle in him. He's a crafty finisher around the basket and the versatility. What he reminds me of is a Jalen Brunson type of player. He's actually taller than Jalen Brunson. And the one thing about him is he's absolutely electric, guys. The way he improved his three-point shooting, I think he took it from like 30% all the way up to 40 plus, guys. This guy can shoot the basketball, put in a ton of work. And the one thing that I do love about him and where he compares a lot to Jalen Brunson is his father played in the NBA and he started off with the Miami Heat. So he played in the Heat culture. He also played with Carmelo Anthony and the Denver Nuggets during their heyday when they were making it out there to the Western Conference semis and finals, I think, whatever that looked like for them. And they were getting beat by the Lakers, but he was a contributor on that team. So I think that Devin Carter absolutely would be a pick that I know we're not going to like it because he's a guard, but I think we would like it if he is a guy that's coming off the bench for us. And I think that this particular pick could turn into one of those situations where it might be like a Halliburton and it could be like a Sacramento situation. He might get so good that we're able to trade him eventually and get a Sabonis-like package back, guys. And that worked out for the Kings, and it's also worked out for the Pacers as well. So that is one thing that I will say about that. And so, with that being said, guys, that is today's video. I went through some of the picks that the Chicago Bulls could take a look at from that 11th pick on. I still think that there are other players outside of these guys that I've showed the last 2 days that the Chicago Bulls should take a look at. There's excellent wing talent in this draft, guys, that they're ready to be contributors. They're absolutely ready to be contributors, especially with Tristan da Silva. Like, he's a guy that reminds me a lot of Keegan Murray. Like, he's ready to go right now. And he played a lot of years in college and also overseas. He's ready to go right now. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do we go big with a center? Do you guys think we should go with wings like Da Silva? Would you guys be upset if we brought a guy in like Carter to address the bench and then we address size? We could go out and get a Wendell Carter Jr. We could go out and get like a Brandon Clark. We can go out and get size maybe in a Lavine deal out there. So let me know what you guys are thinking in the comments. This is Rico Greenhowe. This is Bulls Digest. And as usual, baby, go Bulls. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.